Here, excited to tell you about my show, Unchained TV Animals, People, Planet. Most of us say we love animals. When we truly respect them, we benefit with a happier outlook, better health, even nicer weather. I'll explain when you join me Mondays at 1 p.m. on KCAA 1050 AM 106.5 FM, the stations that leave no listener behind. And check out unchainedtv.com.
Did you know here at KCAA 1050 AM that we developed an app for all your Android devices? We're talking about your smartphone, your tablets, you name it. You have an Android format, you can take KCAA with you everywhere you go. We're talking about our audio stream, our video stream, and even our podcast. Go to kcaaexpress.com. That's kcaaexpress.com. kcaaexpress.com.
KCAA.
Thank you for tuning in for this edition of Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali. I am Attorney Zulu Ali with the Justice Watch crew: Rosa Nunez, Michael Bilal Clark, Dr. Kil Bashir, Andrew Rodeman, and Ryan Rhodes. This week, like every week, we'll be discussing critical legal and social justice issues that are impacting our communities. Today, we're going to discuss what will the Trump presidency mean for America, I guess, in general, and especially for Black America. What do you think about that? You see what the results were? Didn't I tell you?
Well, yeah, you did. I don't know if he told us this, though.
Yeah,
I'm curious
man.
to hear your thoughts, man. I am.
Well, I mean, the thing is that basically, I mean, clearly, it wasn't, they said it was going to be close and it was going to probably be days before they actually, before we actually find out who actually won the election.
She got whooped.
But yeah, she won, and I mean, he won, and it was, I mean, it wasn't even close.
It wasn't.
I mean, I think that there was a lot of things. I mean, my thoughts, and I mean, I still, to a certain extent, kind of have the same thoughts that, I don't know if, and I said before, I mean, I have this conspiracy theorist vibe with this situation, with his presidency. And that conspiracy theorist vibe is primarily related to, my belief that I think that, I think there's concerns. I think that there's powers to be, not just talking about the Democratic Party, but there's people that are concerned with his presidency and how it's really going to impact, America. And I believe that there are people in powerful positions and our gatekeepers that are really probably concerned about his presidency, right, wrong, or otherwise, because I know there's going to be a lot of stuff going on, with his, while he's in office. I mean, I think also one of the big things that tends to be an issue with the Trump's presidency is, I think that as far as the issue with Kamala, I mean, I think that one of the mistakes that the Democratic Party did in this particular election is I think they could have probably been a little bit more moderate.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think that basically they came out as far right as they possibly could.
Yes.
And I think by coming out so far right that, because most people are moderate, you know what I mean? And I think that, we felt like that we were prepared, or this country was prepared to move that far right. And it's just not. I mean, and that's where I said that we talked about the issue with the culture wars, where I felt like that people believe that there's issues with values and issues with the culture in this country shifted in a way that people aren't necessarily happy with. And then you see that on her stage. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think that people probably, I think if she would have pulled back and the party would have been a little bit more center in their approach and addressed, um, issues that were a little bit more center leaning than the way that they did. And I mean, they really came off pretty right, far right,
Yeah.
and I think that that's why people were really concerned. Even, African Americans were felt for whatever reason felt like offended by some of the people and some of the things that were displayed at some of the conventions when it came to what they saw.
I've seen that a lot more recently. Like after in the aftermath, I saw a lot of people speaking to things they were offended by in regards to Kamala's campaign.
Mm.
You know, having Cardi B and Meg The
Mhm.
Stallion on stage dancing, like
Mhm.
that offended a lot more people than I thought it would. Uh, they felt like, she wasn't really talking to the working man either.
Right.
They felt like she was not talking to blue collar workers in the way that they had hoped. Bernie Sanders came out and said that, like at the end, he was like, like you guys completely overlooked the working class.
Right.
And you were talking about them like moving like a lot more right this time, but you had the extreme right speaking change, and you had you guys trying to be a little bit more right to get more people on your campaign, but you just have this perspective of the American people that a lot of things are going to be the exact same that they were before. Right. And the one thing that always gets people in elections is the one thing that every candidate will ever basically stand on is change. You want change. We need change. And then this person, like her campaign, she really wasn't making a big deal about like things being different, and that hurt her in a big way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And by the way, Andrew, I sent you the call in. If you can hear
Okay. Yeah, let me do that.
me. So yeah, that's crazy. But again, I mean, he pulled it off, man, and he
He
pulled
did
it off,
in a major way.
in a major way. And I think that I think that she wasn't. I'm sure that. I mean, I can say this about now people they really there's some people, man. I mean, we talk, this show is kind of what the presidency is going to mean for minorities and specifically African Americans and people in general.
Yeah.
But I know for sure that a significant number of African Americans really didn't like Kamala Harris, it seemed like. And I say significant because she did get the majority of the black vote, both men and women. But Trump got more votes probably than, at least the scuttlebutt is equal to, if not more than any other Republican president in recent times. And, she really did, for whatever reason, African Americans were not really as motivated about Kamala Harris as Vice President Kamala Harris as you might think, as you would expect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they went after her, man. I mean, it was, I don't know a lot of it because, let's just be honest. I mean, in my opinion, I think that what's interesting about Vice President Harris is that, and I'm going to be as objective as I possibly can. I'm going to hit the bad points and I'm going to hit the good points.
Okay.
So the one thing that's interesting about Kamala Harris is that from a national perspective is that she wasn't really that well known.
She wasn't.
I think that in California, we know, she was a prosecutor and an attorney general, but she really wasn't on the national scene like that. So I think that people were making statements about, we know what she did and we know who she is. No, we didn't. We really didn't know who she was. I mean, we got little glimpses of her. There was this whole idea that she basically, because of some of her relationships that she had early on in her career, and then when I say that we know that Willie Brown was her mentor, and some people say that there was a relationship there. And then there's always this idea that, this is how she got to her position. That's the first thing. The and so that was one of the things. And now the next thing that I felt like that was somewhat unfair is she caught a lot of heat for people's dissatisfaction for whatever it is for this particular administration. I think that was not necessarily um, fair because she is a vice president. So, she's going to catch the heat for whatever this administration did. I kind of get it. But, what can you do as a vice president other than basically do what the president tells you to do? He's really running the ship.
You got to ride. You got to ride for the team.
Right. So those were the things that I felt like that were, and the third thing I have to say is the attack on her ethnicity. Say she was doing some code switching, and on one hand, the whole idea of trying to to really attack her background as to whether she was really black or not, I think a lot of it was unfair. However, I do believe that one thing I can give her credit for is she never really addressed it directly, which I really believe is probably, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that she should have came out and just said, you know what, I am black, this is why? Or she was pretty silent on the issue because it's like if someone walked in the room and said, hey, Zulu, I don't think you really black, I'm probably not even going to engage in that conversation.
And that's kind of where I was gonna agree. I think that she didn't acknowledge it because she was like, "That's ridiculous."
Right.
Because normally, we usually take people for their word. If you say you're one thing, then you identify as that thing, then I'll call you that thing. But it also just goes back to what made Trump successful in this presidential run and the last one, right? That he won. He was successful in. He did a extremely successful job of muddying the airwaves and just putting out misinformation or putting out information that made you question things. And if you say things enough, eventually somebody's going to start to believe, well, maybe there, is something there. So you have people questioning her ethnicity and they're not doing research, right? So then they get this information, they get these things in their head, and they'll make a vote based on something that really doesn't matter at all. Like you said, when they said that she had the relationship with Mr. Brown. Why does that matter? You know what I'm saying? Like, if that's the case, why does that matter? Like, things like that hurt her, and she felt like there was no need to address them. But we live in a society, man, that is so just super focused on just like mudslinging and like all these egregious things and just, reality TV talk.
Right.
And sadly, you kind of do have to address it when you're on these like stages, because if you don't, then like they'll just build up. People will think things, misinformation is running rampant, and that sadly helped him here.
Yeah,
it really did.
Yeah, just to touch a little bit, I'm not gonna get too much into the whole idea of the blackness thing, but people related. Understanding, color and race in America is extremely complicated. And it's even more complicated for, in her particular case, of course, she is the daughter of immigrants who was born in this country and raised in this country. The issue about race and what's really interesting about African Americans is that generally we identify based upon how the broader audience or broader society relates to us or identify us. We generally don't identify ourselves. Oftentimes we're identified by other people. And I think that, so from the perspective of you can look a certain, to me, she looked, if I didn't know nothing about her, she says I'm African American, I wouldn't think twice about it. It is what it is, and that's how we get down in this country, and that's how people treat you. So when you went to the water fountain, they didn't say, well, where did your mom and daddy came from? They said, well, you got to go to the colored fountain because you look colored. right? I
Exactly.
mean, they didn't say Rosa Parks. Well, you look kind of light skinned, so basically, are you black? Are you, what I mean? Are you mixed? It says you look, and that's how you're treated in this society.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's complexion is really what carries today. How you perceive colorism is more an issue than race. I mean, you can be black and look white, and they're going to treat you like you're white.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Or so to me, I never questioned if she was to say, like, I don't know, she kind of looked like she might be this or she might be that. She clearly, for me, I think she looked like an African American woman. So
Yep.
her experience in America, your experiences dictate who you identify with. And that is what it is. I mean, I do know that there's questions about how much African that she has in her.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think that was one of the issues, and I think that was more of an issue, really, in many ways with the black community. But I think also one of the hidden issues, and I want you to chime in on it, Andrea, is her being a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't talk much about it, but I believe with her being a woman, because I mean, yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it. I think that even among women, and even certain cultures, there's a problem with the issue of gender, that nobody wants. Why would we have a woman with her hand on the red button?
Yep.
What you think, Andrea?
Yeah, I think that's very true. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I said that was going to actually be the outcome from the very beginning, if I'm being honest, because for one, I don't know who agreed with what, but I voted for Hillary when she ran, but I knew she wasn't going to win either because she was a woman. I think that actually was played more of a factor than her skin complexion, if I'm being completely honest
Mm-hmm.
with you. I think that was a more of a factor because if you look at historically, it is said, we're emotional, we're this, we're that, and you don't really see too many. I'm trying to say this without saying what I really want to say. It's not too many men in that demographic that will be okay taking orders from a female. And like I said, I think that was more of a factor than her race. Absolutely. That's my opinion.
You think Joe Biden would have done better?
Yeah.
Not right now. You talking about how he is now? Like his
Like if he would have stayed in the race, do you think it would have been a much closer race?
No.
You don't think so?
I think so.
Well, no, not really. Not really. I don't. Only because of how his mental state is now, and people have so many complaints about how he has run the country. I don't think that
I don't think it would have been worse
at all.
You
I don't
think?
think it would have been worse. No, I definitely don't think it would have been worse. I honestly I knew she wasn't gonna. I wanted to think positive. I did not think she was gonna win. That was my hope that she would. I just didn't think she was gonna lose as badly as she did.
Yeah, I mean she was
for a number of reasons. That was my hope. But I kind of I saw it coming. I did my part, but I saw it coming.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. That's a good question. If President Biden would have done better, Joe said no, but
yeah, I agree with Joe. I just don't. I don't even think he would have. I mean, he wouldn't have been able to even answer the questions the way that he needed to in the debate. Like he just wasn't okay. He's not okay right now. So
I think he wins. I don't think. I think he loses for sure, but I do think that he does better than her, bro. She got whooped. Like
at the debate, you think so?
No, not the debate. I'm talking about like in the actual results.
Yeah,
like she didn't. Yeah. She lost a popular vote. She didn't win one battleground state, and we got that. It was called people are making jokes about like when Obama was running, like Obama would win in time for us to go out to dinner afterwards. Like and like
Absolutely.
and with Trump, like it was further than that, but it's still by 1 o'clock in the morning, we knew. And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. And see, that's what I didn't expect. I didn't. I was hoping that she would win. I did not expect it to go that way, though.
yeah, I
You know,
didn't. So I
kind of
still,
like that Tyson fight.
yeah,
But that's another story.
I think that Trump, I think Trump and his change momentum, and we're gonna take the country back, was just too much for anybody to really take down this time. If I'm being honest, I thought that he had momentum after he got shot, and then it died down, and then
In
Kamala,
Pennsylvania.
yeah, and then and then Kamala got the nod, and then she gained momentum, and then when the lead into the campaign, the actual election day, like her momentum died down too. I don't think anybody thought it was gonna be as bad as it was, so I can't really say Biden would have done better, but yeah, I don't know. I think that Trump sort of had it no matter what.
Yeah, I think they were going to make sure that that happened regardless. But I will say that I agree. I kind of was chopping up a little bit earlier, but I was a little concerned when the only way I'm going to put it this way, her it got a little too black at one point, and I think that got scary for people, and I think that's what really detoured a lot of people.
I think that I don't know if what happens. I think is they miscalculated um, black people in a way. So in other words, I mean, some of the people that she would let me give. I always said, if it was Obama, he would have had Stevie Wonder on stage,
Hmm.
right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, so when you put and those are the things. See, I'm telling you, and we talked about this before. The only way I've always said that there is a values and culture war in America.
Hmm.
It really is. I mean, people are very, very concerned with the direction of the country, much of which, has to do with. Um, I mean, I'm always complaining about the direction of the country. I'm always complaining about, I'm from the Generation X. And I'm always complaining about, man, I cannot believe what you see on television. I can't believe what our children are doing. I can't believe
Oh
that
yeah.
we are allowing this to happen. I
Oh
can't
yeah.
believe this is going on in school. I wish they would get their heads out of their phones, although I'm on my phone all the time.
Just
I
was me
wish they
too.
would get,
Me too.
you know what I mean? And so Joe's over in his phone. But, all these things which might not necessarily point specifically to the president, but it's a perception, right? One of the first things he does is he starts going on with equity and diversity initiatives,
Right.
and he attacks equity and diversity initiatives. Why? Because there's this thought among the world that among our country that people don't work for things. There's this thing that people are just given things. There's certain things where there's ideas related to the immigration. That's absolutely really not true, but there's a lot of, like, for example, I know that somewhere in the Midwest there were a lot of resources that were given to immigrants that were not even, like they were given allegedly shelter and certain things and places to stay when you had people that were on the street who didn't have a place to live. I know you've heard about that. So that was and immigration actually ended up being one of the number one issues, right? Who would have thought?
Yeah.
And also, then you start seeing other ethnic groups who, disproportionately, voted for, well, not disproportionately, but overwhelmingly in certain cultures voted for Trump. You know what I mean? And we thought that we had this coalition.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too. I want to talk about that in a major way. Like, moving forward, like, I don't want to get like super pro black, but I am, and I just am. This whole like, what is it, BIPOC, the BIPOC, people of color thing? Yeah, I'm good off that. Like, I was never really a fan of that before, but I'm definitely good off that now. I think that it's important to be in solidarity with other people and their sufferings and their challenges too. But I also think moving forward, this is the black community, we really need to focus on how to improve our community and get the things that we want and desire moving forward. Like I said, I have no problem with allies, but as black people, I feel like so many times before we've seen our allies fail us in times of need. This time around, and once again, it's not to put any blame on anybody, but we can't win. If you look at the election results and the numbers, you kind of couldn't put your support 100% in the Latino community to sort of ride with us. You couldn't put that in 100% into like Indian community, Asian community. They're voting for their interest, right? We seem to usually vote for everybody's interest, especially black women, like vote for everybody's interest. But other people don't do that. And I think that for black people moving forward specifically, we need to focus on the economic aspects of our community, the education aspects of our community, and just the social aspects of our community too, the things that we allow, the things that we shouldn't allow moving forward. Because there's a lot of things within this election cycle that show like, we need to change a lot of things in regards to our youth. And in a lot of ways, like millennials and boomers and everybody, like we all seem to have these ideologies that have kind of morphed into something that is not going to help us moving forward, and we need to nip that in the bud.
Right. Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, that there's always this. We're afraid. We're really, black people are really scared to say anything that may make us seem as though we're racist. So we're always talking about when we include everybody. It's like even on this show, we always say black and brown people. Of course, people African American are black and brown and other colors, but we always say and other people of color because we assume. I mean, we always kind of want to. I don't know what it is, but we often, it's like we always are fearful to make it just a black thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then on the other hand, when we do when we do make a decision that we want to move forward, it's a very difficult situation to address some of the things that we have to address because, the same reasons that we get these other individuals involved in our movements and our concerns are almost the same reasons why we can't move forward in many ways, such as economically. Because sometimes I often believe that we see ourselves oftentimes through the lens of the people of it's clearly racial oppression.
Yeah.
Right. Internalized racial oppression.
White supremacy.
And internalized racial oppression is a real thing.
Yes.
And oftentimes and that's the problem that we have. Even sometimes when we have people who see themselves as nationalists or Africanists, they suffer from a certain degree of it because many of the things that they embrace is an opposite to us being in solidarity as people, as African American people, right? And so it's very. And then there's another thing too, is that we also, and now when we talk about, we're in a complicated situation because even when we actually try to unite with other people from the diaspora, when we try to see as uniting people from places in the continent, we still sometimes, kind of spit in the wind.
Yeah.
And we have to, at some point in time, embrace the fact that we are African Americans and we do have a history. We do have a proud history, and we have to stop borrowing from somewhere else and believing that somebody else's culture is better than ours.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's like, okay, so, and because I love everybody. I love brothers from the continent.
Same.
But they don't always see us, our interest is their interest.
At all.
Even on the continent, they don't see each other. Kenyans and South Africans and people from Ghana and people from Nigeria, they see each other as different people.
They do, absolutely.
We only see color because that's how we were taught.
Right.
We are taught that everybody that, it's the same way. So, and so I think that we have to back up, understand our own culture, our own history, and we need to embrace it because, like I said, I mean, everybody wants our swag. Everybody wants our swag. And we understand, everybody understands it but us.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We've dominated the popular culture of the world.
Mm-hmm. But sadly don't own any of the the industries that would allow us to, move forward. So, yeah.
We understand money, but we don't understand economics because we don't, sometimes we don't want to see each other do well.
Right.
I mean, we're competing. It's still the whole, on the plantation, thinking that there's only so much that we can get, and there's only can be one HNIC at a time.
Yeah.
That's how we see it.
Yeah.
What you think? We got to change it, man. I mean, we have to get in that space.
Right.
And when we look at all of the other movements that we've had in the past, and all of those not to belittle or criticize any of the movements that we've had in the past, I think that all of them are really important. But the most important movements, in my opinion, I just had to say it. Not the most important, that's the not right word, but the one that I believe that set a model that would have been, with the exception of possibly some of the theology, was the nation. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at their teachings on the, economics, they were completely, it was about the values movement of the nation, the economics of the nation, and many of the other things, like I said, bar some of the theology. It would have, think about that concept. The concept was you. Although there was a lot of preachings about what they did to you, there was a lot of preachings about, criticizing, but the one thing that could be taken from it is is responsibility and building, where most of the other movements was about give me something. And I'm saying that loosely. I don't mean that literally. I'm not saying we don't deserve it, because we deserve the things that we were asking for. But I think if we would have focused as much on building as we were on, trying to recapture what was taken from us, I think it could have served us a little better. And I think that they were onto something, at least from that aspect of it. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
And so that's the reason why I say that, that was, when we think about the movements, even Dr. King, I mean, at one point in time, had made the statement that I feel like that I've integrated my people into a burning house.
Yeah.
Because I think that, and I'm not going back to say necessarily that, we should be in segregation, and some people have gone that far. But what I am saying is that we have to step back and get a better balance on, we didn't have a plan after integration.
Yeah.
It was like, let's just integrate. And then there was not really a plan. Then it felt like if I could be part of the broader society, then everything's going to be cool. But it's not. I mean, I think that, there's a lot to be said for our institutions that are historical in nature that we built. And, it's just like, HBCUs, right? We're just now getting back to appreciate and understand the significance of HBCUs.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, there was so much that, when you think about, like for example, I remember as a young kid, I was thinking, man, uh, as far as the who the bet if you were African American and you wanted to go to the NFL, the place to go, what's my man in Florida, what was his name? The
Florida?
Florida. I know Grambling, Eddie
Grambling.
Robinson.
Grambling.
Grambling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Eddie Robinson. I mean, Grambling was a place to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was producing more black NFL players than anybody else. But then once, now you open things up and everybody's leaving and running to something that they feel is better in some ways, which it's not.
No.
You know what I mean? So I think that there has to be a paradigm shift. I don't know how that happens, but there does have to be we do have to have a paradigm shift and understanding of ourselves and understanding of a new assessment of pride. You know what I mean? And that's something that we just don't, we just don't see it like you used to, man.
And that's the scariest part for me, just because for us to move forward, you know, through this presidency and just in general, we need a major sense of solidarity. And part that's hardest about that is, I think that individualism is the highest it's ever been
Mm.
with social media and the internet.
Oh yeah.
And people just, I don't know if there's a way to get us all together.
Mm.
You
This
know?
might be how. Maybe his presidency is a blessing in disguise.
It gotta be something drastic.
And
though.
this is why I say that, is that basically, okay, let me just say this. Kamala Harris is not going to fix nothing for Black America.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and it was a false sense of security that if she was to become the president of the United States, that it was going to have a significant impact on Black America.
Right.
I mean, it's a proudful thing, and it may be a indication to some people that the country is moving differently and changing. It does. It's a face of change.
Yeah.
But hardship, creates movement. There is no movement unless there's some degree of hardship, or at least a sense of hardship. And through the process of someone like Donald Trump becoming, it's like, for example, I mean, when is the only time that Black people get together in March?
Somebody dies.
They see a tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's this collectivism when it comes to tragedy. As soon as that tragedy goes away, then whoever would have thought that the energy that we got from what we saw in George Floyd would just be like a memory.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But
we just wait around for the next tragedy. That's I mean, historically, that is the movement. That's what we do.
Right. I mean, and when you think about the time period in America where you've seen the most solidarity, it was a time period in which we had the most opposition and we were going through the biggest struggles.
Right.
When we were going through the biggest struggles, you saw unity.
Right.
You know what I mean? And now that, when that unity when that struggle goes away, you know what I mean? You ever have that friend that don't call you until he needs something?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's kind of how unfortunately, if we could get that unity and keep that unity and stop, allowing the circumstance to dictate how we are to relate to each other as a people, and to basically focus on us being together. I think that now may be the time for us to do that. It may create that, that spark of us uniting because we realize that we have to. You know what I mean? And if we're gonna move, if we're gonna move, we have to be put in that position. You know what I mean? So, the way I see it is that basically, again, like I said, I mean, you're gonna start seeing some weird things. I'm already seeing videos of people getting knocked out because they feel like they can say any old thing. They feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I saw a video at Texas A&M where there's a white guy in class and he was disruptive.
Mhm.
And one of his classmates, I guess, was of brown complexion. I don't know if he was
Mhm.
what he was, but like he was like, yo, like stop. And he's like, Trump's the president, like you're an immigrant, you're gonna be out of here soon.
Mhm.
And like,
Oh wow.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
should have been punched in the face,
Right.
but you know, it's just like gasp, oh my God, like somebody saying that. And it's just like they're confident, man.
Mhm.
Like they're confident to
boldness
be
is
able to
that,
say
yeah.
these things.
Yeah.
Their
And I
boldness
guarantee
is
he
that
doesn't get
like
kicked
it
out of
was.
school.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so it's like what, you know, you're empowering these guys with
Mhm.
stuff like
Yeah.
that.
And also, I think that one of the things that we also have to begin to start posturing ourselves is that, you know, yeah, I think that maybe we have to stop giving it too much energy.
Yeah.
I mean, we had to stop giving what happened in this particular election too much energy, because it's not like this is I mean, we've dealt with it. I mean, we've lived this way. I mean, we've dealt with this forever and much worse as a people. And I think that is what makes us special. And I think that the fact that she lost, to me, uh, is more of an opportunity for us to, as I said before, to unite as a people, to understand that it's about us as a community, what we can build as a community, as opposed to what the government is going to do for us, because they ain't gonna do nothing for us anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, very limited. I mean, there's some things out there. I'm not saying the government's not going to do it. It's never done anything, but we know what time it is.
Yeah.
And if we're ever going to get, the only thing we want to do is just keep you out of, when we do, to stay out of the way.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
But I feel like we literally just had this exact same conversation in 2016. So when are we gonna actually do it? I mean, we keep saying the same things, like what we need as a collective, but we don't.
I'll tell you what we need is, again, like I said, man. I mean, you just have to look at history, and when you start looking at history, you pick up periods and you pick up movements, and I as objective as I possibly can, as I can be,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we've had, you know, that was something special. I mean, during that entire time, when you talk about the United Slaves, when you talk about the Black Panther Party, when you talk about the SNCC, when you talk about all those organizations were very positive organizations, and I think that they were, shaped. The most important time. This is probably That was probably the time period in which Black collective had the most positive change, and we see, and it was exemplified, at its finest. Um, and in order for us to, somehow get that spark back, in order to kind of move that way, is, there has to be, more of a collective effort to stop thinking about money and start thinking about economics, because that's what happens in other communities. You have other communities that are, money driven in any ways. But then let me go back to another thing too. I think we also have to be careful about how much praise we give other people.
True.
You know what I mean?
That's true. That's real. Yeah.
I mean, because I think we have to step back and say, do you really? I mean, this is the way I see it. It's not what you have, it's how you got it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I'm not going to be envious of somebody that got something in a in an immoral way. You know what I mean? And oftentimes we don't step back and think, like, okay, I want to be like this, or I want to be like that. But, are you willing to do what, are you not necessarily willing to do, but yeah, would you do what they do?
Yeah. Right. Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's real.
And so that's another thing, is that just because somebody is doing something, or is getting a benefit, doesn't necessarily mean that you should praise them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean,
That's
I'm sure
real.
there's a lot of people that would love to have the billions of dollars that Diddy has.
Yeah.
But would you, right now, would you like to be in his shoes?
Nah. Nah. Not at all.
Absolutely
Like,
not.
even from a presidential standpoint, though, I saw somebody say this on social media, and like I agree, is like, like politicians don't walk around with enough fear in their heart of like the people that they're like trying to like work for. Essentially, like we treat them more like celebrities than people that are working for us. Like they should have more fear of us,
Right.
essentially. And it's like we do have to hold these people accountable. Like, yes, they're wearing these suits every day and they're flying on these planes and speaking on these platforms, but it's like at the end of the day, we gotta remember, like, you work for us,
Mhm.
you know, and we
Right.
gotta act like that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that is. I mean, that's, yeah, we give, it's sometimes like backwards in this country.
Yeah.
And I think that it's by design because I think that people in leadership benefit from the conflict among the common folk.
Mm.
Because as long as there's conflict among the common folk, then you can rule people.
Yeah,
It's,
absolutely.
it's just like, like prisons are like I visit jails every Sunday, and sometimes I go out to prisons as well, like state prisons, and I've been to federal prisons. But it's like prisons are like a microcosm of society.
Mm.
Like if you go into a prison, then basically prisons are basically separated into different groups. You'll have your Hispanics over here, you'll have whites over here, you'll have blacks over here. You'll have just different individuals are separated. And let's just say you have 4,000 prisoners, and I'm just using a random number.
Yeah.
Let's say you got 4,000 prisoners and 100 guards. How can 100 people control 4,000 people? Because the 4,000 people, all they're doing is fighting each other. The safest person on the yard is the guard, right?
Right.
He has the least to fear, and the reason why he doesn't fear anything is because those other 4,000 people are fighting each other, and that's how we are in society in America. Is that basically, they have nothing to fear because the common. It's just like the Democrat. We talked about this when we were talking about before the election. That the red and the blue and people. It's the same way even in the hood.
For sure.
You know what I
Right.
mean? The safest person, the most unsafe person in the hood is us. Other people can walk through the hood and probably are going to be just as safe, if not safer, because we've even split each other up into colors and territories and streets and communities that we don't even own.
Right.
And fighting each other. And that's the reason why, it's not like they're going, it's just like during the riots. They didn't do it. They didn't call in the National Guard until the people start leaving their own communities. I mean, as long as we was burning down our own communities, wasn't nobody going to do anything. So they don't
Right.
have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And so we have to stop allowing a lot of our conflicts and our these issues, shape the way we're thinking. This division, especially division with it, and that's just kind of how it works. That's why when you said the power, they have this power in their celebrities, and we're fighting each other over this person. We're going to blows over Donald Trump, or we're going to blows over Kamala Harris.
Right.
You know what I mean? Who, as you said, they're fighting for an opportunity to work for us.
Yep.
But instead, we treat them like they're dictators or special, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of how it works. But in the final, before we leave, what do you think that, just in a short, because I know we're getting ready to get off of here, unfortunately, short statement. What do you think that it's going to mean for us?
Andrea, you want to go first?
Yeah. I'll go first because it's pretty simple. I think that we're gonna, first of all, we're gonna have to figure out a way to stick together some kind of way. I think that all of this stuff was intentional, so I think we're gonna see a whole lot of Let me tell you what I hope it doesn't mean. I hope it doesn't mean that we're going to see a lot of people, a lot more people going to jail for fighting. I hope it doesn't mean that we're going to suffer any more than we already have been suffering financially, economically. I hope it doesn't mean that we're going to suffer in regards to our education. If these schools are going to be losing fundings and things of that nature. That's what I'm hoping it does not mean. I do hope that it pushes us to do what we should have started doing back in 2016 and really unifying and making some changes for our community, for us as a people. I hope this wakes us up, is what I hope it does. That's what I'm hoping, that it wakes us up and lets us really, really, truly see that we all we got and we need to start acting like it.
What do you want?
I want us to fight, and I want us to be smart. This Trump campaign and presidency is pushing policies that will hurt us, because realistically, whenever the country is at its lowest points, Black people always suffer the most from those things.
Yep.
So, like Andrea said, they're trying to rip Black history away from the education system. They're trying to get rid of Head Start. You know, a lot of people don't know that a lot of impoverished Black people and kids in this country, the only meals they get are at school, right?
Yes.
Those things might be stripped away, right? The ability to go to college. A lot of Black HBCU students go to HBCUs based on Pell Grants. They're trying to get rid of those things, right? So what this means is rich white people get richer and more educated. Black people get poorer, less educated, right? So this means that we gotta stay together, guys. We gotta be smart. We've gotta, be very involved in local politics, be very involved in what's going on in our own communities, put money in our own communities, prioritize those things, and just prioritize each other, man. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It's gotta really be some movement together as a community.
Yeah. And protect our kids right now, because these kids are watching. My son was 12, very affected, very, very affected
100%.
by, and so we gotta protect their protect their hearts, protect their minds, and show them what it means to fight.
Yeah. But you too.
I mean, I think I want to see, us, be more about executing our plans. I think that we tend to, we always have a plan, but like Mike Tyson says, everybody's got a plan until they get hit in the face. So we have to make sure that we're executing the plan. And I think that how do we, that is the biggest problem that we have, because we have a lot of marching, we have a lot of forums, we have a lot of places that we are platforms where we go to discuss the issue.
Right.
But when it comes to going out into the streets and actually executing, then a lot of times that's where we're lacking. You know what I mean? We're very good at talking, but when it comes to executing, then we have to be better at trying to do what we need to do to actually execute these plans, to go out in the street and actually make things actually happen.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things that, because we always talk about, like in Oman, it's just like, you want to support Black businesses, but you're scared to go to a Black business.
Scared of Black people.
Yeah, you might be scared of Black people. Or, it's, so we have to kind of change our whole mindset, and we have to be, the psychosis of what we're going through is sometimes what we think of ourselves, which is wrong, is that we need to be debriefed. And once we get debriefed, then we need to go out in the streets and we need to make things happen, man.
Absolutely.
And not be concerned so much with what they're going to do for us as opposed to what we should, what we have to do for ourselves. And that has to be the focus, do for self. And right now, that might be why we were put in this position. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
Wow. That went kind of quick. What you think? All right. Again, Justice Watch. Justice Watch people who are watching Justice Watch, we appreciate you tuning in. And from all of us here, we'll see you next week, same time, same place, same channel. And until that time, stay blessed.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932.